Before the world recognized Rowan Atkinson as a master of comedy, his life unfolded quietly on a farm in County Durham, England. Born in 1955 into a family that valued structure, restraint, and education, Rowan grew up surrounded by routine and expectation rather than creativity or chaos. The loss of an older brother in infancy cast a silent shadow over the household, reinforcing an atmosphere where emotions were rarely displayed openly. From an early age, Rowan learned self-control, observation, and patience, traits that would later define his work. Though his upbringing was stable, it was not emotionally expressive, and he often felt inwardly isolated. That sense of internal distance became a defining feature of his personality. Even as a child, Rowan was thoughtful and analytical, more comfortable thinking deeply than speaking freely, unknowingly laying the foundation for a future built on silence, precision, and restraint, living with a voice that betrayed him. Around the age of 5, Rowan developed a severe stutter that transformed everyday communication into a source of fear and humiliation. Simple tasks like answering questions or reading aloud became exhausting ordeals, and school quickly turned into a hostile environment. Classmates mocked his halting speech, labeling him strange and otherworldly, reinforcing a sense of isolation that followed him for years. The stutter did more than disrupt his voice, it shaped his identity. Rowan became hyper-aware of himself, constantly monitoring his words before speaking, often choosing silence instead. This self-consciousness fostered anxiety and self-doubt, feelings that never fully disappeared even in adulthood. Yet within this struggle, something unexpected emerged. His heightened awareness of timing, expression, and reaction quietly sharpened his observational skills, planting the earliest seeds of the performer he would one day become. Finding freedom through performance. Something remarkable happened whenever Rowan performed. On stage, speaking as someone else, his stutter nearly vanished. Acting created distance between his inner fears and his outward expression, allowing him to communicate without hesitation. This wasn't confidence in the traditional sense, it was relief. Performance freed him from constant self-surveillance and the fear of judgment. The character spoke, not Rowan, and that separation changed everything. Acting became a refuge, a space where control replaced anxiety and expression replaced silence. For the first time, he experienced what it felt like to be fully present without fear. This discovery would shape his entire career. Comedy, for Rowan, was never about attention, it was about escape. The stage offered him something ordinary life could not, permission to exist without apology or restraint, intelligence, expectations, and an unlikely path. Despite social struggles, Rowan excelled academically, particularly in mathematics and science. He attended Newcastle University to study electrical engineering before continuing at Oxford for advanced research. To those around him, his future seemed predictable and secure, a career in academia or engineering. Comedy was not a sensible ambition, especially for someone who struggled with speech. Even Rowan didn't initially view entertainment as a viable path. Yet Oxford exposed him to creative freedom and intellectual play. Joining student performance groups allowed him to explore comedy in a structured, low-risk environment. There, his analytical mind merged with performance instincts, creating a unique comedic style built on precision rather than spontaneity. The tension between expectation and desire defined this period, forcing Rowan to choose between safety and authenticity, logic and instinct, turning silence into strength. What truly set Rowan apart was his instinctive mastery of physical comedy. Inspired by silent-era performers, he learned to communicate through movement, facial expression, and timing rather than dialogue. This wasn't avoidance, it was transformation. By leaning into physicality, Rowan turned his perceived weakness into a creative advantage. Silence became powerful. Every raised eyebrow, pause, or exaggerated movement carried intention. His comedy felt controlled, almost engineered, reflecting his technical background. This approach also offered protection. Physical comedy allowed him to perform without triggering the anxieties tied to speech, giving him full command of his presence. Over time, this style became his signature, enabling him to connect with audiences across cultures and languages. What began as self-preservation evolved into one of the most recognizable comedic languages in the world. Breakthrough, pressure, and perfection. Early success came slowly and uncertainly. Festival performances and radio work earned critical attention but little stability. When his first major television success arrived, it nearly failed before finding its audience. Critics were harsh, ratings were uncertain, and cancellation loomed. Yet persistence and belief from key supporters kept the project alive, allowing Rowan's talent to fully emerge. With recognition came pressure. Rowan became known for meticulous standards, rewriting obsessively and demanding precision from himself above all. Comedy, for him, was not carefree joy, but disciplined labor. The public saw confidence and control, but behind the scenes, he battled exhaustion and self-doubt. Success amplified expectations without silencing his inner critic, reinforcing a lifelong pattern. Achievement never erased insecurity, it simply raised the stakes. Reinvention and emotional depth. Rather than clinging to early success, Rowan chose reinvention, co-creating a historical sitcom that blended sharp satire with emotional depth. After an uncertain first attempt, the show was completely reworked, leading to extraordinary success. Its final installment took a bold turn, replacing humor with quiet tragedy, leaving a lasting emotional impact on viewers. This moment revealed Rowan's range, proving his comedy could carry profound weight. For him, this project was transformative. It was collaborative, supportive, and less isolating than earlier work. It allowed him to explore vulnerability openly, without hiding entirely behind absurdity. The balance between humor and seriousness reflected his own inner life, marking a rare moment where his work aligned closely with his emotional truth. Becoming a global silent icon. The creation of his nearly silent character in 1990 transformed Rowan into a global figure. Relying almost entirely on physical comedy, the character transcended language and culture, reaching audiences worldwide. Ironically, the role mirrored Rowan's lifelong struggle with speech, turning silence into universal connection. The success was overwhelming but costly. The physical demands were intense, requiring extreme control and endurance. Filming was exhausting, often leaving Rowan drained for days. Though grateful, he found the role more burdensome than joyful. Over time, he scaled back, choosing animated adaptations and occasional appearances to preserve his health. The character brought him global recognition, but it also reinforced his instinct to hide behind performance rather than step forward as himself. A legacy of adaptation and quiet courage. As Rowan entered his later years, his focus shifted from achievement to balance. He chose projects carefully, valued privacy, and accepted limitations without regret. Despite global admiration, he has spoken openly about self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy rooted in childhood experiences. Fame never erased those doubts, it simply reframed them. Rowan Atkinson's story is not about conquering fear, but adapting to it. He didn't overcome his stutter, he learned to live alongside it. He didn't eliminate vulnerability, he transformed it into art. Through discipline, creativity, and resilience, he turned silence into laughter and insecurity into connection. His legacy is not just comedic brilliance, but quiet strength, the courage to build a life not by defeating weakness, but by understanding it.